So, in honor of the Deku vs Shigaraki fight soon coming to a close, I thought it was about time to rank all of Deku's 7 quirks from most useless and least powerful to the most useful and most powerful. Now, as I just mentioned, this is not just going to be a list talking about how powerful Deku's quirks are and ranking them based off that. We are also going to be ranking their usefulness. So even though one quirk may not have as much raw power as another quirk, it may be put higher on the list due to how useful the quirk actually is. Now, as we know, most characters in My Hero Academia have just one singular quirk. However, this rule does not apply to 3 characters, that being Deku, Shigaraki, and All For One. And since we have a full clear list of all of Deku's quirks, we'll easily be able to rank them on a list. Now, without further ado, let's get started and let's see which of Deku's quirks are useless and not powerful at all, and which ones are insanely OP. Now, starting with the number 7 spot, and something that may confuse a lot of you, I have the quirk One For All as being Deku's worst quirk. Now, I know that sounds really confusing as to how One For All can be the worst quirk, but let me explain. The original quirk of One For All belonged to someone known as Yuichi Shigaraki, the very first user of One For All. And you guys need to understand, as a base quirk, it sucks. There's a reason All For One made fun of his brother for potentially having no quirk. It's because with One For All as your only quirk, it makes it seem like you have no other quirk. What this quirk does is it's able to store power, and it can just be transferred over to other users. And the quirk only starts becoming powerful when it is transferred, because the more it's transferred, the more power it gains, and it also absorbs the powers from other users, which is why Deku inherits so many quirks from One For All. But again, as the base quirk, it sucks. It's completely useless, and it guarantees no advantages whatsoever. Coming in at the number 6 spot, I have Nana Shimura's quirk, Float. Now, this quirk belonged to the mentor of All Might, and as the name suggests, the quirk's main ability is just to allow its user and other people to float. It's basically like Uraraka's gravity quirk, just a bit weaker. Now, this quirk really shines when it is paired up with the other quirks of One For All, and it's what makes it look so powerful. However, again, by itself, it's not really that useful of a quirk. The ability to float isn't really going to get you anywhere in a fight. No offense to Nana Shimura, but the only reason she was so powerful is, again, because she had One For All paired up with Float. So because of its very limited capabilities by itself, it's gonna be in the number 6 spot. Coming at number 5, I have Smokescreen. Smokescreen belonged to the 6th user of One For All, known as N. And basically what Smokescreen does is, it's pretty self-explanatory. The user is able to generate an entire cloud of smoke, completely blocking all vision for their opponent. And when used strategically, Smokescreen is an absolutely phenomenal quirk, even though it's not very powerful. We've seen Deku use it time and time again, and it's been the deciding factor in a good amount of his fights. We saw him use it against Muscular in order to get the upper hand. We saw him actually use it against Lady Nagan to completely obscure her vision in order to have no line of sight of Deku, and it's actually what won him his fight against her. And most recently, we saw him use it as a diversion against Shigaraki. So this quirk has a ton of uses on its own. However, the real downside to this quirk is that it also obscures its own user's vision. So if you use too much of Smokescreen, you are going to be the one that's put at a disadvantage. So this quirk really comes as a double-edged sword. And because of the fact that it can be very harmful to its own user, and it may even put its user at a disadvantage if not used correctly, is why I am putting it at the number 5 spot and not any higher. Ladies and gentlemen, it's around here where we get to the hard part of the list, because the next 4 quirks that we have are all amazing quirks, and honestly, However you rank them, I won't be upset about them because I'll completely understand. The next 4 quirks are insanely overpowered all on their own. But coming in the number 4 spot, I am going to put Deku's Danger Sense. Danger Sense belonged to the 4th user of One For All, and it's another very self-explanatory quirk. It's pretty much Spider-Man's Spidey Sense put into My Hero Academia. Anytime there is a threat around Deku, Deku will immediately sense it. This awakened within Deku during the first war arc of My Hero Academia, and since then, it has been an absolute lifesaver for him in battles. This quirk completely prevents all possibility of a blind attack and you being caught off guard, which is amazing. However, as useful as this quirk is, it does come with its weaknesses. It's clearly shown that anytime Danger Sense is activated, it takes a very heavy toll on the user's body. So, every time Deku senses a danger that he had not noticed himself, that is a massive toll of energy that is being taken away from him. On top of that, Danger Sense does not always guarantee that you dodge the attack. For example, Deku was able to sense that Lady Nagon had fired her bullets at him, yet he was still not able to dodge them, being injured by them. So just because you are able to sense an attack coming does not always mean you'll be able to avoid it, and that is the true flaw of Danger Sense, and it is the sole reason why I can't place it any higher personally. Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially entered the top 3, and coming in at the number 3 spot, I have the quirk that belonged to the 3rd user of One For All, ironically, Fa Jin. Now, a lot of you may be confused as to why Fa Jin is not higher on the list, and I understand your guys' confusion. Originally, I was going to put Fa Jin at the number 2 spot, but I decided to place it at the number 3, and let me explain why in just a second. Now, what Fa Jin does is it basically allows its user to build up kinetic energy, giving them insane boosts in speed and power. We saw this during his fight with Lady Nagon, with him building up kinetic energy and just completely speed blitzing her. And we also saw this in his fight with Shigaraki on multiple occasions. So you must be wondering why a quirk that is able to boost speed and power by so much is not any higher on the list. Well, this quirk also comes with a weakness like other quirks. It takes a good minute for that kinetic energy to build up. When we saw Deku use Fa Jin against Lady Nagon, he literally had to sit still in one spot to build up that kinetic energy. And even if he just sits still for a moment, that moment can be a deciding factor in a battle. That is a moment he cannot afford in a lot of fights. However, luckily, this quirk can be used in bursts, meaning that he doesn't have to use all of that kinetic energy all at once. But again, once that kinetic energy runs out, who knows when Deku will get the next chance to rebuild it back up. So because of its long charge up time, that's why I am placing it at the number 3 and not higher. My number 2 pick may surprise a lot of you, but I have Blackwhip, the first quirk that Deku awakened within One For All. Blackwhip belonged to the 5th user of One For All, and the quirk by itself doesn't look too good, but within Deku's hands, it is absolutely broken. Now, the main uses for this quirk are just swinging around, grabbing people and objects. However, Deku uses it for so much more. For starters, we've seen that Blackwhip has insane destructive capabilities, such as when Deku lost control of it and it was completely wrecking the UA school grounds. We also saw that Deku was able to grab multiple people. He's also been able to grab multiple cars with just Blackwhip alone. So this quirk is already insanely useful with just those 2 uses. However, the beauty of this quirk comes with how Deku is able to use it offensively. Against Lady Nagon, he was able to use pinpoint focus in order to shoot a tendril from his arm as if it was a bullet. And possibly the best thing this quirk can do is it acts like an exoskeleton for Deku in order to strengthen his physical capabilities. We saw him do this in the first war arc of My Hero Academia up against Shigaraki, and now we see him cover his entire body with it, puppeteering his own body and giving himself extra strength while using Blackwhip. So a quirk like Fajin, its main capability is giving its user a boost in strength and speed. Blackwhip can do that along with so much more, which is honestly the main reason why I placed Blackwhip over Fajin. It's because it's able to boost the strength and speed of its user while still acting in so many other ways, such as being able to completely capture its opponent, grab objects, be used defensively, and be used offensively. When placed in the right hands, Blackwhip can practically make you untouchable. And coming at the #1 spot as Deku's most powerful and most useful quirk, I'm sure to no one's surprise, is the quirk of the second user, Gearshift. Gearshift allows Deku to change the speed of himself or of his opponent or of any object he chooses. He can either make somebody slower, faster, and he can do this to himself as well. Using it, Deku was able to make all of his moves extremely faster, even breaking the sound barrier when constantly barraging Shigaraki with his attacks. So the fact that Deku can boost his own individual speed by so much gives him an overwhelming advantage against all of his opponents if he uses it. And ultimately, that's why I have it ranked as his #1 strongest and most useful quirk. Anyways, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what other videos you guys want to see in the future. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.